right, now an official welcome to our virtual book launch party. Grams and me always together, never apart. As you guys can see back here, we're very excited for this project. Today we're going to, we have a couple of interviews to share, but we wanted to start off by just sharing a little bit about the book for those who don't know what it's about or anything like that. We just have a couple of questions that we will talk about, kind of just ask each other back and forth about our inspiration. Okay. And if someone someone is producing in my lap right now. But yes, we have just a couple of things to talk about the book, and we have some amazing interviews coming up. We want to talk about our sponsorship with Black Children's Book Week, and then we will let you all have a great night. All right, so we'll just get started and ask each other questions. So first, we can start off with the biggest question about what inspired us to write the book. For those who don't know our story, Larry, you can get started.
Yeah, so for those of you on here who are familiar, a lot of you on here are very familiar, but some of you that are not. I lost my mother August of 2020, and before my mother had passed, she was actually working on a book. She was actually spending months preparing for this book, but she never got a chance to finish. So this was an opportunity me and my wife talked about of just kind of like continuing that legacy and, bringing that her in a way, bringing those words to life, as much as we can. So.
Yeah, and I'll also add what inspired the book or what kept us going, because it was a long time coming, right? It definitely took a while from ideation to now finished product, and different things that kind of, life got in the way a bit, but a lot of pushes as well, um, with the book. So in addition to my mother-in-law sadly passing in 2020, a year later to the date, and then 2 days later, literally, my grandmother, my last living grandmother, passed away, Beulah May Atkins Ghostin. And so that was kind of very, it was an experience, a traumatic experience, kind of, about, um, very strong women in your life no longer here. And as you are now raising soon to be strong women, children. So it definitely pushed us to continue moving forward. And then I will say recently, with last year, when we were still trying to push and get that book out, my mom had a major health issue. And so that was like, all right, we got to get this book out, and so that's kind of what pushed us to get here, along with our amazing village as well. So shout out to the people that are in the chat. You guys know our story and was pushing us through. A big shout out to Kayla Foytno. She definitely helped us get the publishing complete. So we appreciate her as well. But yeah, it was an experience, and we'll talk coming up with a clinical social worker, a little bit more about the clinical side and just resources to help in terms of helping parents cope. And so here is the animated trailer for you guys. So yes, that's just a little snippet of what the book is about. Yes, just a little snippet of what the book is about. But yeah, we basically did it as as therapy, to heal, to preserve legacy, to make sure that my daughter and now second daughter, will know her very strong line of women. She comes from a very strong line of women, so she'll know their name. She'll speak their name and be able to put, have something physical to remember them by. Yeah, and so this whole project is, a therapeutic healing process and really a servant process as well in terms of turning our tests into testimonies because we're very private people. So this is a time for us to to step up and deliver the message that God led us to. Yeah, and yeah. Anything else to add, babe? Before we move
No,
on?
it's I like how you covered all that, baby. It's been a journey.
Yeah. And anything you hope that people take away from the book, from reading the book?
Yeah, the most important thing is just just experiencing, like, when you go through these trials and tribulations and experiencing grief. It's a part of life, and we hope that by you reading this book, you kind of have some kind of peace and comfort, from all of this. So, and this life is challenging as it is, but hopefully this book can kind of give you peace. It's a children's book at the end of the day, but hopefully you can find some peace out of it.
Yeah.
So
And for those parents and guardians and caregivers or just aunties, anything like that, it's something for you all um, to have to bond with your children. And one of the cool things about it is, here's the book here. It has like a to from page, like a gift page. So it's pretty cool how you can gift it to a grandmother can gift it to their granddaughter or whatever. But yes, thank you. We see all the comments coming in. Thank you so much, everybody, for the
thank
support.
you, thank you, thank you.
We really appreciate it. The last thing we want to do before getting to the interviews, we did want to mention, or I guess we can mention the Black Children's Book Week. Do you see that flyer at the bottom, babe, on your end? It should be at the bottom. The Black Children's Book Week.
No, I don't see it on you.
No worries. But yes, we'll mention that at the end. We can get started. Thank you, Aunt Clara. So we'll move to we'll talk about our sponsorship coming up with Black Children's Book Week and how you can see our book in their virtual museum. So we'll talk about that. But we'll get now to our grandmother tributes. First, thank you so much to those that sent in submissions and wanted to share their loved ones with us. One of our goals with this launch was to not just it be about us and our family, but to provide this platform for others to also share their loved ones as well. So throughout this, you'll see a couple of tributes and we'll loop them, we'll repeat them just because we have quite a couple of interviews, so we'll have tributes between them. And so I just separated them. So we'll have the tributes of those grandmothers who are no longer here. And then we'll have separately the celebration of grandmothers who are still here and that we cherish and create memories, or are still able to create memories with. So first, we will get to our tribute of those who no longer are here. And then we'll go into our interview with the licensed clinical social worker. Okay.
Your money is like. Party, Grams and me. Welcome back, everyone, to our virtual book launch party. Grams and me, always together, never apart.
Yes, the goal of our book, as we mentioned earlier, is really to honor and preserve the legacy of our mother and grandmothers. But we also thought about how we could truly turn our tests into testimonies and share resources for others because we know grief is a part of life. So we thought about the similar complex emotions that we dealt with in terms of how to cope with loss of a parent or grandparent, learning how to grieve while parenting, which is a whole nother thing. Also, learning how to teach your little ones about their grandparents because maybe they were too young to remember, and so on. And so that's why we're excited to share that we're also working on a Grams and Me, Always Together, Never Apart workbook to serve as a companion guide and resource to our children's book. And so, with this new workbook, we, of course, wanted to join forces with someone who is an expert in this field. So, please join me in welcoming the co author of our workbook, licensed clinical social worker, Dr. Sharika Elliott. Please
Yeah.
welcome her to the virtual stage. Woo!
Hi, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And also, she is family, right?
Yes.
Yes, my first cousin. So I'm so excited to have her on here.
Hey, cousin.
Hey,
This is a family project, a near and dear family project because we actually, have gone through similar, life situations that have made this workbook even more meaningful and we'll be able to really share our experiences, right, with
yes.
this.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Yep.
Yep. So I am going to move to behind the scenes and I'll let you guys um, take it from here, right?
Yes, yes.
With the introduction. So,
Yeah.
all right, tell the people, Sharika, about yourself while I type
Good.
it.
So, as Lynette introduced me, I am a licensed clinical social worker. I like to say that I've been social working for the past 10 years and working in the capacity of grief, bereavement, hospice, and helping those who have dealt with terminal illnesses transition to their death, their passing, which is why it's very important to actually use the word death instead of passing to ensure that we're teaching our young what death is about.
Mhm.
So, that brings me to partner with family on this, on Grams and Me book, as I have authored the workbook.
Good, good, good. So, look, Sharika, cousin,
Right.
I have a couple questions I want to ask you about this because, obviously, I lost my mother, your auntie, and I know I've been through that hospice, and I know how it feels, and the stress and all that stuff that comes, on, it's a lot, but
It is.
it's a process. So, and it's good. And I'm so thankful that, you made some time to, be with us today so you can help a lot of our viewers, like cope with this situation. But I do have a couple questions I want to ask you. So why is this workbook going to be be important resource for parents?
So, Larry, death is a very hard process, and
Yes.
you can't really ever truly say that you're over it. You just learn
Mm-hmm.
how to deal with it throughout time.
Mm-hmm.
And the workbook is an important resource as it helps parents learn to cope with their own grief, their own loss, and be able to teach it to their young. You know,
Mm-hmm.
in the Western culture, we see death as a taboo
Mm-hmm.
when we're all going to experience it one day.
Yes.
So it's difficult to say, it's difficult to know what to say or what to do for yourself, let alone be able to model and teach that to your children.
Mm.
So the
Okay.
workbook was designed to at least give a parent who don't know where to start, how to start, to grieve and being able to share that to their babies.
Yeah.
So throughout the studies, we know that children truly don't understand the concept of death until they're about 3 to 5 years old.
Mm.
And this is a developmental stage for that child to really understand the dynamics of the roles of their mothers, their fathers, let alone extended family members. But although they understand, hey, my fish died or my pet died, they
Mm-hmm.
may not understand that death is actually permanent.
Mm.
So it's
Mm.
still up to us to be able to educate that.
Mm-hmm.
And the workbook offers parents to give their child comfort, give them reassurance, and letting them know that
Mm-hmm.
yes, death is occurring. Yes, we will all experience death, but this is how we can gently relay that information to them.
Mm. Okay, that's good. That leads to my next question. Are there some tips for parents or adults coping with a loss while also trying to take care of little ones? So,
Absolutely. First
mm.
and foremost, you know that uh, saying when you get on when you board the plane, make sure you put the mask on yourself before you put the mask on your babies.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
make sure you take care of yourself before you try to take care of your child because they're
yeah,
watching.
yeah. That's
And
true.
you have to recognize that you're their model. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you're the person that they're looking up to.
Mm-hmm.
And of course we're humans, we're not robots,
Mm-hmm.
but we want to teach them how to understand their emotion.
Yes, yes, yes.
So throughout the workbook, we're teaching parents to give comfort to their children. But first, recognize that you have to understand how you comfort yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The workbook helps parents teach death to children up to age 4 and 5.
Okay.
So we're going from infancy to 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, the children truly don't understand that death is permanent. So your children is going to feed off of you. And however much you want to train them about death, we definitely leave that to you, but you definitely want to understand the developmental stage and not share too much as they may not be able to digest that information.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
So we encourage parents to ask the babies about their feelings. Listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
Be mindful of the words that you use.
Mm-hmm.
Understand your choice of words, so
Mm-hmm.
that way you're not caught up in euphemisms. You're not over relaying the information in terms of what happened to grandma in the hospital and how she received this type of medication and what the condition was. It's
Yeah.
too heavy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's important for you to recognize your own anxiety, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your own fears, your own loss, your own resentment,
Mm-hmm.
as your child could definitely take on those types of emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
another tip is recognize those signs. When you
Mm-hmm.
see the changes in the behavior, such as infants, their main sign of communication is crying.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're crying in front of your child, make sure that you're soothing them afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
you're also teaching them how to soothe by shushing, rocking, playing noise,
Mm-hmm.
white noise, brown noise, is the new term.
I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you see that that child is clingy, don't
Mm-hmm.
shut them off from, comforting them. Don't shut them off from wanting to sit in your lap and just wanting to be rocked.
Yeah.
Give them that time, give them their attention, because it could also be stemming from other places that you may not even think that they're grieving.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So my next question is, how can we help our little ones cope? Any activities they can do?
That's a good question, Larry,
Mm-hmm.
because it's you think of like, how are you going to teach an infant how about death? How are you going to teach a
Yeah.
3-year-old
Yeah.
about death?
I'm
You
going
know,
through that now. So yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
and you have to take a step back and not overthink it, right? Or overanalyze it. First and foremost, the book. Beautiful idea that we partnered up to create this project, because reading is fundamental. You read to an infant. You read when they're weeks old.
Yep. Yep.
So when you're setting when you're setting that concept in their mind, then you're also introducing concepts about death, about
Mhm.
faith, about
Mhm.
spirituality, about
Mhm.
afterlife. And I
Mhm.
think it's important for parents to understand how they want to introduce those concepts into their child's life. So prior to, reading books about death, understand what that looks like in your family when it comes to, God.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Another activity I would say is create some poems, right?
Mm.
Sing songs
Mhm.
that that you're familiar with when it comes to your loved one, in which they sung, you
Mhm.
know. Making sure that you're looking at photos of their loved one who's passed or who died,
Mhm.
through that photo album that you perhaps created with them,
Okay.
and being sure that you're taking pictures, if you were able to, taking pictures of your child with their with their loved one.
Mm. Okay.
And so whenever they're looking through that photo album, they can see, oh, look at me. I was a baby with grandma. Although they never met grandma, they can see the picture was a moment in time that was captured where they did. They just didn't know it yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that. Okay.
So, those are a few little tips, few little activities that I'm willing to share. And as you know, more is featured in that workbook. So I just hope that it educates the community. It educates parents on developmental stages of
Agree.
what grief looks like for each child,
Yes.
1 through 5, and how we can break the stigma of death being a taboo
Mhm.
when it's not healthy for it to be looked as such.
Yes. Yes. So I guess my final question will be, where can people find more of your work or connect with you?
So I have a website titled hopehappyheal.com. HOPEHAPPYHEAL.com. I have a mental health practice that I run virtually, which is called Hope Happy Heal LLC. So
Awesome.
anyone who is interested in receiving support can definitely reach out, as I have another consultant who I work with who also sees clients that range with diagnosis of depression, anxiety, grief. If they suffer from any eating disorders or childhood trauma issues, you name it, we definitely will support. And with that, I can also be reached at 202-810-1702, which is my business line. So we're easily accessible. And first and foremost, just reaching out to us via the website and dropping a follow-up message on the website is most helpful.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Sharika.
Thank you for having me, Larry.
Anytime, anytime. And Grams and Me workbook coming soon. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is the virtual book launch for Grams and me, always together, never apart. I'm honored to have you all here as we celebrate the journey of love, loss, and legacy of our beloved grandmothers. And I'm excited now to talk about another topic of how expressive art forms can help us cope with loss and honor the memory of our loved ones. And so I'd like to now introduce my cousin, Latorio Faison, who is a talented poet and educator. Please join me in welcoming her to the virtual stage. All right.
Hello. Thank you.
Hello.
Thanks, Lynette, for having me. I'm excited to be here and be a part of
Thank
Grandma
you.
Denise.
Thank you so much. And please, tell the people just a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, I am Latorio Faison, Black poet, author, educator, author of over 14 books, mainly poetry, but most recently, The Missed Education of the Negro, an examination of the Black segregated education experience in Southampton County, which is historical research. But aside from poetry, there's that book also. And I was born and raised in Southampton County. I'm also a 28-year military spouse, now a veteran military spouse. My husband and I have 3 sons, 2 adult, 1 15, and we're currently residing in Virginia.
Yes, awesome. I didn't know 14 poems. Woo.
Yeah. I've been publishing books since 2001.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. See, so all this have so much in the family, different authors and poets, and literacy runs deep, right?
That's right. That's right.
Right. And speaking of that, I definitely wanted to, kind of get your insight being an author and an educator. And being that this is Black Children's Book Week. Again, shout out to Black Children's Book Week, which we are a sponsor of. But I definitely wanted to get your insight on, why is literacy important in our community, especially, amongst the youth, with it being Black Children's Book Week.
Yes, having grown up in my grandparents' house, books and the library were always important to me. The library down in Cortland, Walter Cecil Rawls Library, was one of my favorite places. The library in all of our schools was always my favorite place to go. So literacy, I knew the importance of it. But in terms of publishing, when I became an author, I think I became an author before I became an educator, or no, I can't remember which, but maybe simultaneously. But one of the reasons that I started publishing was, one, I wanted to be able to put, my words, document my experiences. But a set of the books, a trilogy set of the books that I published, was 28 Days of Poetry Celebrating Black History. And one of the reasons, my mother-in-law, your cousin, was actually the reason that set of books came to be. She was an English professor, and I was writing these poems, but she gave me the idea. I mean, actually, she asked the question, why don't you write some poems that we could actually share in school, that, we could share in classes? And I thought about it. And when we think about what's going on with Black books and literacy right now, and literature for us, this was back in 2001. And even in 2001, I was thinking, I could write poems, autobiographical poems about, famous Black people that teach children about, iconic African Americans. And so that is how that 3-book set came to be. And I started taking that book as early as when I had only one of them, because I published the first book in the first volume in 2001, and then like 2 years later another one came, and then another came. So there's 3 volumes in that set. But I literally, every February through April, take those books into schools, into churches, into communities. And, it's poetry, but it also promotes literacy and literacy awareness. Reading is a challenge for kids, for many kids, and for various reasons. Poverty and socioeconomic status is definitely a barrier, but some of our children just have challenges, learning challenges. And so poetry is fun because it is easy to read. It rhymes. A kid can look at a poem and not get overwhelmed because it's short. And just seeing the kids light up when I read a poem about Phyllis Wheatley or Frederick Douglass or Booker T. Washington, or just, anybody that they can learn about it, in just a few stanzas. And it's not hard. And, so I think it really promotes literacy, and it also encourages kids that they can read. Students like to memorize poems, and to see a poem and to see a kid's, my poems have been used in schools from New York to California to down far south as Florida, Kansas, Arkansas. And, sometimes people send me videos. I think more recently, a school up in New York, a private school, they took one of my poems and put a bunch of students together, and they put together a slide presentation, and they acted the poem out. So there were some kids in Texas who did my Buffalo Soldiers poem. So it always does my heart really good to know that the poems are actually doing what I sent them out in the world to do. And it's really to make kids like to read.
Yes, yes.
So
And I'm
promoting that, I mean, if I can do that through poetry, but that, I don't know that was my initial reason for writing poetry. Poetry was more of a healing. I need to get things out of me onto the page.
yes.
But those 3 books were definitely what took me into schools, what made me focus on, younger readers and make it more attractive to them, making poetry more attractive, but also making learning about Black history more attractive.
I guess the theme of our children's book, love and legacy and healing from grief, is those themes that we aim to cover with Grams and Me. So I was just curious, I wanted to talk with you about your experience in using art forms to express your love and heal and remember your loved ones, similar to what we did in writing.
Wow. When I think about poetry and my writing, the fact that it all happened in my grandmother's house, I was grandparent raised. And
Mm.
so even though the beginning of my writing and art was about falling in love with poetry as a little kid, reading the basic poems, reading the Langston Hughes and the Maya Angelou, but also using poetry as an outlet to kind of have a voice. When you were raised by older people, a lot of times you were seen and not heard,
Mm.
and you spoke when spoken to. And so that was the era in which I grew up. And so a lot of the things, the feelings that you had, you couldn't verbalize them. You had to put them on paper. And so that's how I got my start in poetry. But no doubt it happened in my grandmother's house. And so thinking about your theme, I've always used poetry as a way to express myself. But in keeping with your theme of, coping with grief and remembering those who we have grieved, I never imagined that I would use it in that way. And so, I lost my grandmother suddenly in 2008
Mm.
to pancreatic cancer. And it was suddenly, it was within 3 months. And so I didn't grieve well. I did not grieve well. I made myself sick. And my first inclination was not to write because you're grieving. But
Yeah.
I do remember, even when she passed in 2008, I had been established as someone who did poetry. And I just remember being at her funeral. And when people saw my name on the obituary to do reflections, they just knew I was going to get up there and do a poem. They just knew. And I wanted to, but I couldn't. I
Mm.
just couldn't, because any poem just wouldn't do for her. I mean, it just couldn't be some poem I threw together like the night before or, on death. I wanted whatever poem that I wrote about her to be iconic.
Mm.
Like
What's her name? What's her name?
Her name was Shirley Lee Turner Williams. She was born in Cortland, Virginia in 1932. Her mother died when she was young. So she was raised by her uncle and her uncle's wife, along with their children. So she was raised in a family of about, 10 or 11. And there are a few of her siblings left now, but she was an amazing individual. She was a Black Southern cook. She cooked in the school cafeteria. She drove a school bus. She brought me up in church. Pretty much everything I know about being a strong Black woman came from her and my other grandmother. And so I come from this matriarchal line where women are strong, but education was key in her house. And so it was because of her that I ended up in a library, because of her that I love books, because of her that I became a strong student, because she always encouraged it and literally and supported me in everything that I did. So when I wrote this poem, even though I was grieving, I knew that the poem that I would write about her, and I've written many poems about her, but I wanted this one that represented her to be amazing. It was 2008 when she passed. People were expecting a poem. I was expecting a poem, but that poem for her did not come until 2012.
Wow.
We left here. My grandfather passed in 2012, and we moved overseas. I still hadn't really written that poem. I think I had maybe started it when Daddy passed. He had Alzheimer's. And when we went to Korea, that's where I was finalizing it. And I remember finalizing that poem finally, and I just couldn't believe finally I've done it. But I also, there was a lot of regret in finishing the poem. It helped me through the grief, but I regret it. I felt like I had missed some opportunity of doing that poem at her funeral. And I carried a heaviness about it. Like, why did it take 4 years for this poem to come? But so I started submitting that poem everywhere.
Wow.
Everywhere. And finally, okay, I finished it in 2012. I was sharing it, I was submitting it, but it wasn't until 2017, 5 years after the writing. And I'll tell you, it was 5 years of editing this poem and changing it, because the words had to be right. And you'll see as I read it why the words had to be right. There's so much of where I grew up in this poem. But I finally submitted that poem, and that poem won Winning Writers Tom Howard Poetry Contest. There were over 3,000 entries in the nation, and I won first place with that poem. And it was titled "Mama Was a Negro Spiritual." And there was just, that title is everything that she was, and probably a whole lot of other Southern Black grandmothers. But I was really proud of the title. And looking back, some poets write good poems all the time. This is one of my best. It's one of my best. It's one of the poems that I'm most absolutely proud of. When I read it, I mean, I'm so in tune with it. And it's proof that, what we do in terms of artists, it is healing. Not only is it healing for us, but it's healing for other people. I've had so many other people who lost their grandmas say, I saw my grandma in this.
Yes.
Even white people, they're like, this was my grandma.
Right.
We had people from like the Middle East, like, read this poem, but they can see pictures of their mothers and their grandmothers in it. And that's what this poem is about. And so, I've paid tribute to Mama so many times with this poem, but, if I want to just, remember her, I can always pull this poem up. And as you'll find it online in tons of places, but it's been anthologized in a number of places. And I told you it's gonna lead this poem. I told you how it started as a way to cope with grief, but also a way to honor her, to pay tribute to her. And I should tell you how many years it took for it to come. So after this poem finally won the prize, then I made an entire collection out of it. So I wanted the collection to be Mama Was a Negro Spiritual as well. I took the poem, made that the collection title, and I shopped that collection around for a whole year. It didn't get selected by anybody. And I'm a self-published author, so I knew if it doesn't get published, I can self-publish it. But I knew that this poem was special, that this collection was special, because it kind of like, it documents place where we grew up. So much of Cortland and Southampton County in this book. So I didn't want to self-publish it, because when you go with another publisher, you just get more exposure. You're able to get more exposure. And so I shopped it around for a year. It didn't get selected. It made finalists in a couple of places. The poem was making finalists. And so I said, okay, maybe the word Negro in the title is too strong of a word for 2020, for the new millennium. So there was another poem in the book, Nursery Rhyme in Black, that also was a finalist for a prize. So I started to shop this collection around with the two titles. And this year was this poem's year, 2023. This year was that collection's year. So the University of Alaska, this book, this collection, Mama Was Negro Spiritual, under another title, Nursery Rhyme in Black, was selected by Amy Netsu Kumata Teal, who is an amazing poet. She selected this book to win the Permafrost Poetry Prize in
Wow.
2023. So as a result of that, the University of Alaska will publish this book this year in 2024. But when I won that prize, I had to go withdraw the book from all the other places that I had submitted it. And I found out that the book had made finalists in at least 3 other places. Some
Wow.
places were like, you were gonna win.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just so happy that this year was this book's time, 2023.
Mm.
So I'm excited about that release this year. I'm not sure when it will be released, but it will be released in 2024.
That's awesome, and to hear the journey of when it started, and same with like our book. We started writing this a couple of
Mhm,
years back, and so
mhm.
it's interesting, and to hear that things take time.
Yeah.
Just as grieving takes time, right?
And
Um,
it was written out of grief and loss
mhm,
and the desire to pay honor to and tribute to. So the fact that my first book that's going to be published by an academic publisher,
mhm.
it has its roots in Mama, so it couldn't get any
Yes,
more special than that, right? It's like it's
right.
it's like it's fate. It was meant to be. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And we're gonna get to your poem in just a second. And just one last question of like advice. So if anybody's listening that, may be into poetry, or we're talking about, I guess, less generalized art,
Hmm.
it could be painting, it could be dance, any, type of expressive art. Just any advice on how to explore
Yes,
that?
yes. Becoming an artist, people don't just become artists. You do it first off because you find out that you have a knack for it, that you have a talent for it. But I have seen people who go into art, various types of arts, who maybe didn't appear as talented, but they worked on it. They
Mhm.
taught themselves. And so there's 2 ways to approach art. You can do it the learned way. You can be someone who has natural talent, but even if you have natural talent, you still need to work at it. So
Yeah.
for me as a writer, the books that I wrote in 2001 are definitely nothing like the books that I'm writing now, but it shows growth. And so my advice is whatever it is you want to do, whatever art form it is, find someone who's doing it. See what they did, see what road they took. Everybody has a different road, but you can learn from other people.
Yeah.
You want to look for mentors, and mentors are not always people who are present, people who can spend the time. Sometimes a mentor is like someone that you can watch from afar. I've always
Yeah.
been a fan of like Nikki Giovanni, Maya Angelou, just different types of writer. So I started getting involved in the Black poetry scene, finding out who's who in contemporary poetry, what they're doing. And so I found out that you have academic poets and you have non-academic poets. And for a while, I didn't know quite where I fit because I'm an academic and I'm a poet, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm an academic poet.
Yeah.
If you're not in this arena, then you don't know that an academic poet is someone who actually studied poetry, who has maybe an MFA,
Hmm.
a degree in creative writing. I don't. I have a degree in English, and of course, I came to some poetry by way of both degrees. But
Interesting.
in a sense, I'm not really an academic poet, but there are academic poets out here who write and they've learned the craft. So I would certainly say, whatever it is you think you want to do, whether it's publishing, writing, drawing,
Mhm.
painting, learn the craft, surround yourself with people who are doing it and find out what makes them better. Nikki Giovanni says all the time, if you want to be a better writer, one, write what you know. Write what you know. You can't write what somebody else knows.
Right.
So this, most of what I write is about my experience or what I see, what I observe. But the other thing is, in order to improve your writing, you have to read other writers. And so I would say those are the 2 things that have really helped me. Writing what I know, not trying to do something that's not mine, but also reading as much as I can of other people, studying how they do a thing, because
Mm.
you learn that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great tips for anybody, again, watching, and hopefully you're inspired, by what you heard. And before we hear the poem, I guess, is there any way, or just let everyone know how they can get connected with you, or experience more of your work?
Okay, well, you can find me on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm on
Yes.
Instagram. I'm literally everywhere. I have a website. It's latorialfaison.com. You can literally find me on LinkedIn as well for those of you who are in business. All of my books are available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And if you see books and you'd like to get personal copies from me, I'm only an email away. And so you can always get in contact with me through social media to get autographed books, or if you're interested in having me come read at your school, your church, or do any private events, because I've done private events. But you can definitely find me. Thank you.
Awesome, wonderful, wonderful. Well, Latorio is going to take us to break by reading her poem that is dedicated to her lovely grandmother, right? So thank you again, Latorio, for taking your time to chat with me, to chat with us, to celebrate the book launch, and for just all your expertise and guidance, behind the scenes of, just helping coach me. I really appreciate it. So I wanted to let you know that for sure.
Thank you.
And
And congratulations on your book and your project. You're doing an amazing job.
thank you. Yes, it's definitely a village, but we're excited, to finally be here. Like you mentioned the journey, right? But we're
Yes.
excited to finally be here. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to take myself off, and you're going to have the stage to yourself.
Right.
All right.
The poem's title is Mama Was a Negro Spiritual. It won the Winning Writers Tom Howard Poetry Prize in 2018. She was a good night prayer, a moon that shined down on me through her bedroom window. She was the alphabet, a Sunday school verse, a third Sunday gospel song to rehearse, a mostly misunderstood exchange of power, responsibility, and commands. She was a black 73 Ford LTD, a Nottoway River crossing, a house filled with too many other folks' children, an orphan that life and death left behind to find some joy. She was a funeral going, everybody in Southampton County knowing, bad manner destroying pillar of strength. She was a Friday evening ride to town, a Saturday morning cleaning, a Sunday go to meeting kind of human being. She laughed louder than Jim Crow's law and cried softer than God's peace. She was the secret I never told, sworn and born for the claiming, the carrying of some other man and woman's burdens. She was rare and uncut, unpolished, and ripped from some earthen mine, placed beneath a sharecropper's vine to bear witness, to bear it all deep down inside. She was a black hearse, a deaf man walking, a raising and waving of both hands. She was thunder, she was lightning, a heavy rain that fell in spring. She was an informal education, small town syndication, her house a book, and she the words penned fervently, permanently on all its pages. She was a Ridley Road scholar, a kitchen where cooking was always done and well. She was Miss Shirley, the lunch lady, the bus driver, Daddy's wife, giver of too much self. Mama was a Negro spiritual, a hymn hum from inside a Baptist hymnal in her old rocking chair from a corner of our living room. She was a wisdom no man could whistle, a fancy no woman could fake, a journey nobody living in the now could take. She was an old fashioned lyric that everybody could lift their voice and sing.
Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Grams and Me Always Together, Never Apart virtual book launch party. We hope that you guys are enjoying it so far, and we are excited about what's coming up next. So, today, or in this next session, we're talking about preserving family legacy. This is a topic that is clearly important to us as we've written this book, and just as we explore more, we just love talking about preserving family legacy, which is why we wanted to talk about this important topic during this book launch. And when I was thinking about, who could I talk to about preserving family legacy? I looked at my family, and we have a long line of, I come from a long line of authors and, some family historians. And I know you guys can relate. You always have that one aunt or uncle who knows something about family history. So I wanted to bring in my uncle, Uncle Ernest, to the stage today. Hello to the book
Hi,
launch party. Hi,
hi,
yes. Hi, Uncle
hi,
Ernest.
Linda. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
So,
you for having me.
I definitely had to bring you on to talk about preserving family legacy. So, of course, I call you Uncle Ernest, but you can tell the people, a little bit about who you are.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to you and the family, the Johnson family, for uh, the book Grams and Me, Always Together, Never Apart. That is a tremendous accomplishment and something that is also a family legacy.
Thank you.
As Annette said, that I'm her Uncle Ernest. I'm a Christian. I'm a husband. I'm a brother. I'm an uncle. I'm semi-retired, and I'm a semi-retired former economic developer, human resources professional, and author. And now I'm an aspiring screenwriter.
Thank you so much for that introduction. As you can tell, you have a number of titles and a number of expertise and skills. But I definitely want to tap into that author, family historian, and now screenwriter role to talk about just thinking about those roles. What's your opinion about the importance of preserving family legacy, and tell the people a little bit about how you did that in your book.
Yes. Um, Thank you. To preserve family legacies, first we must document them. We must establish them. Then we must document them, and it's important to communicate among the family. And when we're when we are establishing legacies and preserving them, we need to establish formal or semi-formal, if you will, uh, times in which we do this and frequencies. Um, in my book, Fusion of Cultures, The Spirit of Argyle America Revealed, uh, we talk about legacy. And it's I wrote that because there was a lifelong passion that I had for writing and for my research, my love of research, that was really solidified as a result of going to grad school at Mercer University. It also came about because of my love for North Carolina and the Sand Hills region, which is in the upper Cape Fear River Valley, the Fayetteville region, as you would know now today, and its unique multicultural heritage. Lastly, I felt the need to be a voice for the voiceless.
And yeah, I'm glad you said that, Uncle Ernest. Kind of taking us into the mindset, and that's really, I think, what we're called to do. To tap into that, our roots, our ancestral roots, and looking back, because there's so many. I guess I would say there's so much questions that we have as a people, right? In
Yeah,
terms of searching for identity, which is really the theme of your book. So as we talk about that theme of searching for identity, can you let me know just a couple of things that were interesting and that you discovered about our family by writing and researching?
yeah. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Uh, when you write a book, and especially a book that is a creative nonfiction book, and there's a lot of research, you uncover a lot of things that you don't know. And one of the things that I uncovered was that our ancestors come from a people that, although they came from West Central Africa, when they were here in America, they were enslaved by the descendants of Scottish Highlanders, uh, the Braveheart people, the Wallaces and the McCoys, and so forth. The people who have the MAC, MAC, and the MCs in front of their names, just to name a few. And they spoke the Scottish Gaelic, which was a unique language, which most people in the United States they don't speak anymore. Mostly in Canada, you would find that, and in Scotland or Ireland. So that was one of the most interesting findings, and that these people, it's documented that these people, our ancestors, spoke this language up to like the 1870s, even better than some of the descendants of Scottish Highlanders that were here in the United States. And I think it's probably because coming from Africa, people, many people spoke different dialects.
Mm.
And so therefore, when they came to America and were forced not to speak their African language anymore, they were able to adjust to the new language. But it died out because English became the prevalent language, and it was not taught in school uh, anymore too. And of course, it was the language of the enslaver as well. Also, I found out that I'll just
And
mention the language.
be-
Just
before
give you an
you go
example.
to that topic, could you give me the example
Just
of
oh yeah, oh
what?
sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure. But infusion of cultures, as
Mhm.
you said in that earlier, it is a book about identity, and it weaves in the questions of who do you belong to and where do I come from, and forgive me for about ready to do this, but the Scottish Gaelic question of Kulish Atatu, which is where do you come from, and Ko Azatatu, who do you belong to? And just wanted to make sure that Kolesh Atatu, which is who do you belong to, and Ko Azatatu is where do you come from? Those are the questions, which are really the questions that many of our people in African American um, families, they ask those questions about who are your people? Where do you come from? They want to know that. A sense of belonging is what we all
Yes.
want to know. And in writing this book, the legacy that I think in the Cameron Hill chapter, which is very inspiring, where many our ancestors, African ancestors, are buried in a Presbyterian church cemetery adjacent to where the white people are buried, and marked
Mm.
and unmarked graves. That was another remarkable finding, which led
Mm.
me to want to know about where did I come from? And in what language did our ancestors speak in Africa? And in that chapter, I uncover that. But I just wanted to, if you would bear with me real quickly, just read
Mhm.
something from my book. And I know this is about Grams and me, but just to talk about the legacy, is that there's a scene here, and this actually happened, where I had ordered the kit from African Ancestry, where I got the DNA from. The
Mhm.
DNA samples were sent to them, and then 6 weeks later they gave the results. But I picked up the speckled brown marble countertop, uh, walked toward Cynthia with excitement, and with two hands holding the small white cardboard box above my head, skyward, turned to the east and said, "Is you the one?" Cynthia thought I was stupid and shook my head, then laughed outwardly, but inwardly I was dead serious. What might have appeared to be a comical reenactment of a scene from The Lion King, depicting the celebration of a new life that would possibly lead his or her people, was actually a question to God. Will the results of these DNA tests, both maternal and paternal, empower my family and community and lead us to a new level of cultural and ethnic identity? So that's all about what you are doing here, Lynn, you and the family, and you, Larry, and Zuri, is preserving that
Yes.
cultural, ethnic identity of the family. So, which I'm very pleased.
What I just want everyone to realize is, though, from a children's book to a creative, creative nonfiction type of book, there are various ways that you can preserve, family legacy. And want to talk a little bit about that briefly as we wrap up, about looking at what are some ways to honor and preserve, is we're talking about specifically grandparents today, and grandmothers, or, grandparents in general. We're just thinking and brainstorming about what are some ways, of course, writing a book is a way, but what are some other ways that we can preserve
Yeah.
our
Those are
grandparents' legacies?
those are excellent ideas of what we can do that. Those are excellent ideas. Family reunions are, I think, the best way to preserve your grandparents' legacy,
Yeah.
to carry it down. Because family reunions, you connect with the family beyond yourself. You see people that may be closely related, but you just don't see them often. Maybe don't talk to them often, and
Right.
you learn more about history, and you learn something every time.
And they're
Forming a
fun. And they're
And
fun
they're
too.
lots of fun. They're lots of
Yeah,
fun. Lots of fun. Uh, Forming a nonprofit to be of service to the community.
that's a
Something
good
that
idea.
a grandparent or grandparents they did. Okay, so you take that, you form a nonprofit, and then now you take it to another level by
Yeah,
your serving the community. The Having a scholarship in their name, yes, excellent. I see that. Uh,
yes,
Continuing to support the business that your grandparents might have had, um, and doing that, or having a business and naming it after a grandparent or
yeah,
grandparents, and of course, writing a book as you have
of
done. As,
course, of course. Yeah, and speaking of names, also you see this often, and as we did with our first as well, but using part of their name and your children, whether it be a first name, middle name. Of course, you
yes,
see that often, to pay homage and
yes, absolutely.
yeah, and then also for the oral history, this is something that the cousins and I, we had this idea, and hopefully we can get it together soon. But just as we all like to create content, this is a content creation, age. Well, let's create content and let's start recording our aunts, our uncles, grandparents, if you still have them. Start recording
Hmm.
them and getting them on camera. And our lovely Aunt Joyce, she's one who is definitely an example of, of that, and showing us how to do that. Because I still sometimes I watch old videos that she recorded of our great aunt, or even our late grandmother. And so I think that oral history is also something that we can do, especially our generation. Just turn on the
Yes,
camera and start recording your parents, start recording your aunts, your uncles, and ask them
absolutely,
questions. Hmm.
absolutely. We have so many opportunities to do that that the previous generation and generations did not have.
Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Uncle Ernest. And before we wrap up, just let the people know, how they can stay connected with you and continue to follow your work.
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you again for having me here today and to talk about our family legacies. Look forward to um, reading Graham's and me always together, never apart. I mean, that's super. I hope everyone goes out there and gets a copy of that. And the audience can find Fusion of Cultures, The Spirit of Argyle America Revealed on Amazon.com. And it's in hard copy as well as in Kindle. And I've been fortunate to be a participant in the upcoming PBS documentary called Voices Over the Water. And it's a story of identity and belonging and shared by various voices of the Scottish diaspora. And I just happen to be one of those voices. The producers are telling me that it should come out this spring on PBS. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Well, thank you so much again, Uncle Ernest, and congratulations on the upcoming documentary feature.
Thank
And
you.
again, thank you everyone for joining us. But stay tuned, because we have much more of Grams and Me virtual book launch party coming up. So don't go anywhere. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. We made it to the end.
Woohoo! We made it.
Yes, and we made it. Someone sleep. We made it.
Yeah, that part.
All right. So thank you guys so much for sticking in there with us. Please let us know in the comments what you liked or what you enjoyed. We do have, we were going to do a giveaway. I feel like with everything that happened, we should do 2 giveaways. Just because it's been a time. And what we were going to do was give these shirts. You can see Grams and me. We have a couple of shirts. When we open up the store, you'll be able to see them. But I think we can maybe give a shirt or two to someone if you guys want to like share how you enjoyed. Thank you, Uncle John. um, how you enjoyed the virtual book launch, or if anything like stood out, any light bulbs or anything like that. And we'll read through the comments between tonight and tomorrow. And we like to gift at least 1 or 2 people with some shirts. So we'll contact you directly, but we'll be looking in the comments. So be sure to let us know, give us your feedback on, again, what you enjoyed. And also wanted to let you guys know, let's see if we can make this, move this. All right. So I mentioned Black Children's Book Museum or Black Children's Book Week. It's taking place now up until March 2nd, I believe. A wonderful, wonderful initiative that we definitely wanted to support, especially having 2 little ones now. We know the importance of literacy. We see our oldest thriving in the literacy space. And so, and now, you know, becoming children's authors, we really support their initiative. So we are grateful to be sponsoring one of the sponsors for Black Children's Book Week. And they have this cool virtual museum because we are now in the digital AI and all other types of new technology. So it's a cool type of space, a virtual space where there's a virtual museum and you can walk around the museum and look at the different books that are in there. We are on the first floor, and that's the website, blackchildrensbookmuseum.org, where you can find it. So we hope that you all support this initiative as well. They do have a few more events. They've been having events all week, and they'll continue up until the 2nd. So check them out if you guys enjoyed this type of event. You know, they're going to do much more with that. So yeah, want to make sure you check that out. Anything else? I'm gonna look at the comments. Anything else, babe?
No, I think that should be it. Does anybody else have any more questions or anything?
Okay, let's see. Craig, thank you, Chris. Enjoy the interview, or Tamara. And thank you, Dad. And Aunt Loretta said the social worker's perspective, poetry, and history were all awesome. Thank you. Oh, and your cousin Reese, everything was awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dion.
Thanks, Dion. Thanks, Kazo.
Oh, thank you, Mom. Yeah, so again, in terms of thank you, sis. Thank you, Treese. So in terms of what's next, so after we get off here, we'll find soon some things, but the website is ready to go. We didn't want to launch it early in the day. We wanted to wait until we had this event to kind of, you know, set the tone. Also, we're not putting everything on the website yet because we do have an in-person book launch event coming up. I don't know if you want to give the people a little bit information about it.
Oh, you talking about next Saturday?
Yeah, just looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. So we're traveling back to my hometown, Fayetteville, North Carolina. So I'm really excited about that. This will be a book reveal. I call it a book reveal launch for my family, my mother's family, my dad, yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm really excited, and yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and it will be on. It actually will take place on my grandma's birthday, my grandma Beulah's birthday. So
it's nice.
that's very special. Yes, and so my mom will be there, and I
Yeah,
believe my uncle will be there. So it's going to be a really special time. We're going to do an intimate. It's going to be an intimate event. So this was, open to the public, but we're going to take that time to just love on our family as we reflect and take part of this, just take in all of what's happening because it's a lot.
Are you ready for this? We gotta get some tissues, man. Get
I
some napkins.
don't know.
Gotta get 5 boxes of napkins.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Oh my
I enjoyed the format. I think
god.
your love for your grand.
Awesome, awesome.
Thank you, Aunt Clara. There's lots of potential for this book. Thank you. Yes, and also want to thank. We have to thank the speakers that joined us today or this week because obviously we recorded it. Thank the Lord. But thank you, Dr. Sharika Elliott, who she'll be there next week too. So excited. She'll go more in depth into giving a sneak peek of the workbook. And again, we'll keep you guys posted. If you do go on our website and you put your email address in, we will keep you guys posted on when the workbook comes out. But right now, the only thing you'll see on the website is the children's book. But again, the workbook will be the resource guide for parents and little ones with activities and that knowledge um, that the licensed clinical social worker has. So yeah, thank you, Sharika. Thank you, Latorial, for that amazing poem and just to express the whole expressive arts thing and like all of this is art and therapy, therapeutic things. So we are appreciative of Latorio for joining us, and she's been coaching me as well, just in terms of the author space. So I appreciate that. And Uncle Ernest, of course, the family historian, he always brings so much insight. So hopefully you all were encouraged to dig more into your legacy and your history of your families as well. I think did I miss anybody?
Oh, my Aunt Pat, she just said something. She enjoyed the entire presentation.
I waited all day.
Yeah.
I waited all day.
I didn't
Oh,
want to read
thank
that part. So, oh
you.
no.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry we kept y'all waiting. My mom said the speakers said Cedric. Thank you, Cedric. He's always supportive.
Definitely. Thank you, cuz.
Yeah. So I think those were all of our talking points. We did the giveaway. The website is coming up as soon as I press this button. Y'all can see it tonight.
Wow, the website.
What else? I know.
I know, right?
Anything else? I was trying to look at my notes to see if I'm missing any talking points. Black Children's Book Week.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, brother.
Oh, hey, Mike. Where to buy? Oh, okay. So where to buy? I want to make that clear as well. Where to buy? So the book is available technically in everywhere you can buy books, but we just noticed some things with Amazon that we're trying to figure out as to why it's not available, and they're third party vendors selling it at like a higher price. So that's why we wanted to get this launch going so that we can sell it on our site. So of course you can sell it. Of course you can purchase on our site, which I would encourage, but it is on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all the other stores. So that's where to purchase. And over the next couple of days, you will see some more merchandise. Again, this is one. The Grams and Me shirt is one. Yes. And then we have one something for the little ones as well. So we'll be sprinkling some more up there throughout. But I think that is all of our questions. Don't forget to keep commenting. We're going to pick 2 people to give some merch to. Anything else before we wrap up? 10-12. Okay.
No.
Yeah. We love you guys.
Yeah, I definitely do. We love everybody. And
All
thanks
13 people that are watching.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think this will stay as a replay. So
Okay. That's
yeah.
good.
Mhm.
That's good.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty.
Well, good night, everyone.
Good night. See you online. Hashtag Graham send me book. Love you guys.
Peace.
Bye bye.